Hello there. If you haven't noticed, I'm not David, and I'm not Sean.
I'm David.
And I'm Sean.
What are we doing here today, guys?
Well, today we have Motivate Korean. This is Jeremy, and his channel is Motivate Korean. He's been in Korea for 4 years, has a lot of experience, has a lot of things to say about Korea, and has learned a lot of Korean. It's true. He's modest. I'm going to say he's fluent.
Speaks well.
Very well.
All right, we'll go with that. Today, we're here to discuss something that you may have wondered about yourself. If you've ever been interested in teaching English in Korea, you may have wondered, well, should I learn the language? And if so, how much? Is it worth my time? We're going to have a little debate about that today. We have get to basic conversation level on this side, and on this side we have it's not worth your time. Your time is better spent doing other things. All right? Ready? Ding, ding, ding.
There we go.
Have at it.
So, Sean, please, go ahead.
All right. I'm not saying you said this, but I just want to tell the viewers that I think it's important. Don't confuse deciding not to invest in learning a language with a lack of ambition. With that same 2 or 3 hours a week, you can spend that doing something else, creating a website, a business, a blog that you can carry with you in a portable way to your next adventure, to your next
Resume
lifestyle.
item.
Right, a resume item, something that's marketable even. Shoot, maybe even a YouTube channel. And so you can bring that to Japan after you're done with your Korean experience. If you learn Korean in Korea, yeah, it helps you to learn Japanese or any other language. But at the end of the day, when you start to settle down and look at all the things that you've built, you know, is that going to, right, your experience, is that going to be marketed by how much language you can speak? I don't think so. I don't think getting to an intermediate level will, in maybe 2 or 3 languages, will help you.
So you think that getting to an intermediate level of language, assuming that's kind of the equivalent to what he was saying, conversation.
Yeah.
So you think that getting to an intermediate level of language ability is less valuable than having some sort of more professional resume items, say an online business experience or something like that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, for many reasons.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, right? Something, again, something you can't take out of Korea that well, right? But I think you got to think of the type of person who is going to leave everything behind and go to a new country, right? Maybe they're running from something. In that case, you probably want to learn Korean if you're going to stay here a long time.
Yeah. Forget English.
We got some fugitives out there. Yeah, learn the Korean. Okay?
Social fugitives.
Social fugitives, right?
Okay.
So, but there's other people who are hunting experiences, and people are probably not thinking about, you know, getting the best advantage on their taxes. Or what I mean is like thinking about what they can carry ahead in the future, right? They're thinking about right now how are they going to get the best out of their 20s and 30s, and learning a language is going to be a really good way to do that.
So you're saying, so you're saying the person that comes here with the thought in mind that, oh, I want to get out and experience something, I want to just go,
Right.
just go.
Yeah.
That person may not necessarily be the one with the foresight
Right.
to do something that's specifically professional to develop their career in
Right.
that sense. They're not in that mindset.
That's up to the viewer, but that's my point to respond to Sean's. I got another one. One source of shame for a lot of people who've been in Korea for a long time is the type of person who came here, just like you, who wanted to stay for 1 year and was open to the option to stay longer. And a lot of people stay 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years, 5. I've heard of 15 years. And you get to that point and you never got the foundation in Korean, and it feels like it's too late to learn.
Yeah.
Learn when you first get here, and that way you really open up the experience if you decide to stay longer. Okay, and you don't want to have that source of shame where you've been here for, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years and you can't speak any Korean.
Yeah, I'll jump in there and say that I've met a few people who are that way, or people who have been here much longer than me,
Right.
and they haven't learned as much Korean, and then they see that I speak Korean well, and they're like, whoa, how long have you been here? And I say, at that time, I was like 3 years, 3.5 years, and they're like, oh, I see that moment like, oh, shoot, but, that's,
Right.
not everyone's that way.
You got to put that time in, and you will get that reward. And it's something that only grows if you're here. Right?
Yeah. All right, what do you have to say there?
As an English teacher, you're being brought over here to Korea for a specific reason, and what is that? That's the fact that you're a native English speaker. You're being brought here as an ambassador, as an expert on the language that is in high demand in the world. Only speaking English can seem lazy, but it's helping people, because English is that important. So walking around, talking to your kids, talking to people in the street, talking to your friends, people that are practicing English, they have no Korean to fall back on you.
When you say your kids, you mean your students.
Sorry, your kids.
That
I
is
call my
Easily misinterpreted to the
become- they
non-English
become
teachers out
close.
there.
I call my students my kids. So
Yeah, it happens.
right. So they have to use any English they can to communicate with you. You're helping every interaction you get in. You're helping people because they need to learn English. I'm sorry, but in the world we live in, Korea's not that big a country.
It's true.
And to travel, to do any other things, to work in these companies, having the resume of knowing English is immensely powerful. So you're doing a huge service to them by speaking English anywhere you go.
And so therefore, learning Korean is counterproductive to that goal.
Not necessarily counterproductive, but
Takes
the
away.
fact that there's no shame. There's no shame in being here and
I see.
and just going around speaking English anywhere you go. You're doing a service.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, there's a lot of people from other countries that come here, and they get a job here, and they use English. People from Russia, from India.
Right.
There's China too. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that come here, and they use English as their method of communication. So
I agree with you, right? Like, I'm not saying there should be any shame for not learning Korean, but you see it in people when they haven't learned for a long time. I just want to clarify that point. But that's a good point. Like, you are an English ambassador. Sometimes you're not really so much teaching English as showing yourself as a foreigner.
being English.
Being English,
Yeah,
right. So
you're representative.
Right, but I think there's one point there that I don't necessarily agree with. If you're using English in the classroom, that's great, and they're getting that contact time with an English speaker. But there's two things that learning Korean can do to help you become a better teacher.
Okay.
First thing is, I'll give you an example. I worked at a high school last year, and even this year I'm working at a program with adults, and I connect with them mostly around Korean. Me using Korean, and they're very. Oh, you see that?
Yeah, I did. You got that.
Big mosquito. I think it was huge.
Did you feel the camera, Joel? That was a fly. I just
there
hit
was
it
a
again.
sound. There was an audible sound there. SWAT.
So I connect with my students on Korean. Not that I'm speaking it all the time, but showing that I'm interested in the language, showing that I want to share in this exchange of language is a great point to connect with your students on. That's point number one. Point number two is, I don't think you can be the best language teacher you can be until you learn a second language. When you know the process to go and learn the verbs, learn the nouns, learn the conjugations, the grammar, the pronunciation, everything it takes to learn a new language, you can't sympathize with your students to the same level.
Yeah.
And I think that will help you become a better teacher if you
Yeah.
learn the language.
For sure. That's a great point. You have anything to say to that?
I do.
Okay.
I could just go on and on. I disagree. I was watching YouTube and I saw two teachers that won Best English Teacher of the Year, and I'm fairly certain that they did not speak Korean. In other words,
They have best English.
yeah.
teacher.
Oh yeah. In the Epic English program in Korea, there's an award, the best teacher of the year. So it's a skill, being able to teach second language English speakers in English. It's a skill, and there's many different ways to do that. You use pictures, you use different games, you use hand signals, you use specially well thought out exercises so that it's easy for them to get it. You don't need to fall back on explaining things in Korean. If you're a competent enough teacher, not saying that any of us aren't, but if you can do that, then that's a huge skill, and that is a great way to teach, and that's the best. I saw the best English teacher of the year do that.
So you're saying that teaching English is in a very effective way as a skill is separate from the personal experience of learning a language. You're saying that you can learn to be a great teacher without the personal experience of learning a language.
Absolutely, I'm 100%. I really am 100% confident in that. But just my last point, and then I'm kind of done. After it's all said and done, after you've been here 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 99.5% of people don't live here for the rest of their life. They go back to the U.S., they go back to Canada, wherever they're from, where their family is. When that's all said and done, having learned enough Korean to have a conversation is nice, but instead, wouldn't you rather, at that point, when you are settling down, growing a family, have something that you can really show for, that you can keep growing, like a business, like a website, like something that you could have been doing while you were in Korea? That's my question. Or do you want to be able to talk about your favorite food in your second language?
Okay. So the final words, I'll say my
That's
final
my
words.
final words.
Clarify a few things. I'm sure you can be an excellent teacher without learning Korean. I can't imagine what that teacher would have been like had they learned Korean. Maybe even better teacher.
Yeah,
And,
all right.
I don't want to say, all right. I don't want to say that, I didn't say that you have to explain things in Korean, but you understand what it's like to learn a second language, like the vulnerabilities and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's true. You probably will go back to your home country, and if you learn the language, if you stay for 2-3 years, that's enough to learn that language forever. It's proven, and if you do that, you can have lasting relationships where you can continue to talk with your friends that you made here in 3 years, special 3 years, instead of it just being a memory in the past. And so you can continue those relationships as you move on in your life. And that's it. That's the last point.
All right. Well, I think there's a lot of good points here. I think it's also important to make the point that we're all people who are learning Korean here.
Right.
So
yeah. I don't believe what I'm saying.
yeah, this is
I think it's a good job.
This is a debate to sort of present these sides. And honestly, being someone who is living here and learning Korean, everything that was really said, I can understand. I mean, there's truth to all of it. So the real decision is up to you, which side you choose to take or what you think. And if you want to participate in the debate, that's what the comment section is for.
See you in the next video.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.